Welcome dear students, let us continue with the remaining textual part of the chapter Silk Road authored by Nick Middleton. Before going ahead with the textual reading, I would like to recap what we have already covered up in this chapter in our previous lecture. So Nick Middleton is a British author who is on his way to Mount Kailash, or say Kailash Mansarovar, a religious place, a pilgrimage for the Hindus particularly and the Buddhist as well. He has been very much influenced by the record of this place, by its beauty and its sacredness, which has been recorded, which has been penned down by different authors, academicians, whoever visited this place earlier. So he wants to witness this beauty by his own eyes. He, along with Jetan the car driver and Daniel his friend, have already set out on this journey. They have been going through the pastures, meadows. They came across different people and different creatures on their route. They have been going through the bumpy routes, the hilly paths, the rocky paths, the sharp turns, steep slopes, and even they came across the nomadic people who were settled at some places, at forlorn places, in the tents. They were taking shelter in the tents, and they were having the Tibetan Mastiff dogs as the guards on the doors of their tents. Tibetan Mastiff is a famous breed of dog, and which was earlier kept in the China's imperial courts also as the hunting dogs. Now they have reached a place where the hills and the mountain tops, mountain peaks are kept with or covered with the snow. So now they have come to a place where they can see the snow. Before that they were passing through the rocks and pastures only. Now let us continue with the remaining part. A swath of the white stuff lay across the track in front of us, stretching for maybe 15 meters before it petered out and the dirt trail reappeared. So what they are seeing there, that swath means a band shaped, a strip shaped, okay, एक पट्टी की तरह जो दिखता है, वहाँ पे बर्फ़ की जो परत है उसके बारे में बात करें. So just like a strip of a icy layer was there, and it was laid on the route which they were following, and it was almost 15 meters long, and thereafter it reduced just to a thin line, just like a stick, and dirt trail reappeared. They could again witness the dirt trail or dirt tail, means now the rocky path was not there, and वहाँ पे जो मिट्टी का या जो सैंड का जो रोड था, पाथ था, वो उनको फिर से दिखाई देने लगा. वहाँ पे बर्फ़ की एक पतली सी परत जमी हुई थी. उसके बाद वो ऑलमोस्ट स्टिक की तरह दिखाई दे रही थी. When ice starts melting, it leaves such type of stretches. The snow continued on either side of us, smoothing the abrupt bank on the upslope side. So they were rising high on the steep slope, and they were having abrupt bank, means sharp turns were there, and the snow was on both sides of the road. The bank was too steep for our vehicle to scale, means the turn was was of a steep height, means you can say it was almost vertical, and it was very difficult for our vehicle to climb that place. So there was no way around the snow patch, and we didn't have even any alternative for this route to deviate from. Okay, कोई दूसरा रास्ता वहाँ से था भी नहीं और जाने के लिए. I joined Daniel as Jetan stepped out on the encrusted snow and began to slither and slide forward. So He says that Nick Middleton says that he joined Daniel when Chetan stepped out of the vehicle and he jumped on the encrusted snow, means decorated snow. Snow was looking very beautiful, and he started slipping and enjoying that snow. Slither and slide means moving smoothly up front and back, stamping his foot from time to time to ascertain how sturdy it was, and in between he would stamp his foot on the icy layer so as to affirm or so as to get the confirmation of its thickness, whether it was strong enough or thick enough to sustain with their load or not. Okay, so sometimes it happens that the icy layer is not so tough, not so hard, and in that case the person walking on over that may get sink may get sinked or may sink in the ice. So I looked at my wristwatch. We were at 5210 meters above sea level. So by his wristwatch, it was recorded that they were traveling at a height of 5210 meters from the sea level. The snow didn't look too deep to me, but the danger wasn't its depth, Daniel said. Daniel said that snow was not much deep, okay, and moreover, the depth of the snow was not the issue there. However deep it could be, it was not posing any danger to them. Rather, so much as its icy top layer. The problem was that its icy top layer was the hurdle in the movement of their vehicle, because the surface was slippery because of the icy top layer, and in that the tire don't make grip with the surface, and that time they fail to push forward the vehicle. If we slip off, the car could turn over, he suggested, and Daniel said that if the vehicle slips, it may turn over even. Okay, means the wheels will be up and top will be towards bottom. As we saw Chetan grab handfuls of dirt and fling them across the frozen surface, and Chetan was by this time enjoying with the ice. He was grabbing the ice in the hands and was throwing it across the frozen surface. We both pitched in, and when the snow was spread with soil, Daniel and I stayed out of the vehicle to lighten Chetan's load. So we both pitched in means we also tried to help him. And what he was doing, that Chetan was grabbing this dirt, handful of dirt, means he was picking some sand to spread it over the surface of the ice so that it could become somewhat rough and it would provide a firm grip to the tires of the vehicle in order to help it move ahead. So they also helped Chetan, and the snow was spread with soil, means they spread the soil over the surface of the snow. Daniel and I stayed out of the vehicle to lighten Chetan's load, and during that forward movement of the vehicle, we were on the surface because we didn't ride the vehicle, and we came out of it so that its load could be reduced and it would help it move ahead. He backed up and drove towards the dirty snow. So he took the vehicle slight back, and thereafter he straightway moved ahead on that dirty snow, means where the sand was spread. Eased the car on its icy surface and slowly drove its length without apparent difficulty. So it helped a lot, and the car started moving ahead on that dirt surface. 10 minutes later, we stopped at another blockage, and after 10 minutes run time, they had to face another difficulty there. There was a blockage on the road. Not good, sir, Chetan announced as he jumped out again to survey the scene. And Chetan came out of the vehicle to have a recce, means reconnaissance of the or survey of the route which they had to follow, and he said, sir, the route doesn't seem good. It means the difficulties are at every turn, at every point. This time he decided to try and drive around the snow, and now Chetan could make out that it was not easy for them to make the way rough for the vehicle, so he tried to run his vehicle around the snow itself. The slope was steep and studded with major rocks. Means the slope was steep, it was almost vertical, and there were rocks roped in. Okay, इसमें बहुत सारी rocks इसमें गड़ी हुई थी. But somehow Chetan negotiated them, his four-wheel drive vehicle lurking from one obstacle to the next. So lurking means unsteady moment. So Chetan managed to go through this rocky path, and his vehicle was moving unsteadily, means imbalanced manner, from one obstacle to the next. Obstacle means hurdles. In so doing, he cut off one of the hairpin bands, means hairpin band, a curved shape band. Okay, he skipped that curved shape turn and regaining the trail further up where the snow had not drifted, and he then followed the route where the snow was not there, means to that place snow had not yet slipped. वहाँ तक भी बर्फ़ नहीं आई थी जिस रास्ते पे भी ये जा रहे थे आगे जाके. I checked my watch again as we continued to climb in the bright sunshine. So as they were climbing up, he wanted to check again what was the height recorded in his clock. We crept past 5400 meters and my head began to throb horribly. So at this time they were climbing the height, or they have already reached the height of 5400 meters from the sea level, and that time his head was bumping, it was beating rapidly in a horrible manner, frightening manner. Okay, बहुत ही खतरनाक सिचुएशन थी उस समय. I took gulps from my water bottle. Gulps means to swallow water, which is supposed to help a rapid ascent. And as you know, to go ahead fast or rapid ascent, go up with a rapid speed, with a high speed, you need to have sip of waters very frequently. It helps a lot while going up and maintaining your breath, respiratory system. So it also avoids or prevents you from dehydration. We finally reached the top of the pass at 5515 meters. So now they have reached 5515 meters. It was marked by a large cairn of rocks fastened with the white silk scarves and ragged prayer flags. So now they have reached a place where there were a heap of stones. Okay, and the heap of stones were on the heap of stones there were some silk scarves. Silk scarves means silk clothes, and ragged prayer flags, फटे पुराने जो prayer flags होते हैं, religious flags, they were lying there all around that rock. Okay, they were looking as if some garlands were laid there. We all took a turn round the cairn. So as it was customary, we went around the rock in a clockwise direction as is the tradition, and Chetan checked the tires on his vehicle. So myself and Daniel both went around that rock as it was a custom, a tradition, and by that time Chetan was checking his vehicle tires. He stopped at the petrol tank and partially unscrewed the top, which emitted a loud hiss. So due to bumpy paths, there was a huge shaking moment in the vehicle, and due to that, obviously, when the fuel is shaken, it creates a massive fume in the tank, and that comes out of the tank through the inlet when it is opened, and creates a sound like the hissing of a snake. So when they reached at the petrol pump, a petrol tank, he opened the tank and they could hear the sound of hissing. The lower atmospheric pressure was allowing the fuel to expand. So what happens, as you go up, the pressure decreases, and the lower atmospheric pressure caused the inside pressure of the fuel tank to expand, and that produced the sound of hissing. It sounded dangerous to me, and I got frightened hearing this sound. Author says, maybe sir, Jetan laughed, but no smoking. And Jetan said, sir, there is no danger, but don't smoke. Okay, if you smoke, this fume may caught fire and it may explode. So at that time, these petrol fumes or fuel fumes act like an explosive. My headache soon cleared as we carried down the other side of the pass. So when we went down the pass on the other side, my headache was almost okay. It was 2 o'clock by the time we stopped by the lunch for the lunch. So now the time was 2 o'clock and we stopped there for the lunch. We ate hot noodles inside a long canvas tent. So there was a canvas tent. Canvas means cloth, a thick cloth from which tent is prepared. So we went to that tent and we had the noodles as lunch. Part of a work camp erected beside a dry salt lake. So there was a dry salt lake, and there some work was in progress, and this tent was part of that working team there. Okay, this was the canteen for them, the people working there. The plateau is pockmarked with salt flats and brackish lakes. So this was a plateau, a pathar, and it was marked with the salt flats, means long stretches of salt, and salty lakes. Brackish means salty lakes, vestiges of the Tethys Ocean which bordered Tibet before the great continental collision that lifted it skyward. So these brackish lakes and salt stretches were symbol of, or signs, vestige means signs or symbols of the continental collision in the Tethys Ocean. Tethys सागर में जो कॉन्टिनेंटल कोलिजन हुआ था, शिफ्टिंग ऑफ अर्दन लेयर्स, जिसकी वजह से वहाँ पे हिमालय उठ के आया था, मीन्स हिमालयन रेंज was developed from the Tethys Ocean due to some continental collisions, and it then went up towards the sky, means high ranges were built there, formed there. This one was a hive of activity, and the place where we were driving right now was full of activities, means there were some work was going on, and the men or human beings movement was massive. Men with pickaxes and shovels trudging back and forth in their long sheepskin coats and salt encrusted boots. So there we saw that people were holding the pickaxes and shovels. These are the implements which are required for digging the ground or the rocks. So they were moving in slowly front and back, and they were wearing some sheepskin coats, and their boots were covered with the salt. All wore sunglasses against the glare as a steady stream of blue trucks emerged from the blindingly white lake laden with piles of salt. So these people, the people who were working there were wearing the sunglasses so as to prevent the prevent their eyes from the glaring of the top surface of the snow, because during the sun shining, the top surface of the snow produces a glare, a shining which can't be, which we can't bear with our naked eyes. So they were using the sunglasses there. And from the front side we could see that a lot of trucks were coming laden with the salt. So salt से भरे हुए ट्रक सामने से आ रहे थे, और ब्लाइंड कर देने वाले वाइट लेक से जो एक ग्लेयर थी, जो चमक थी, उससे बचने के लिए वो लोग सनग्लासेस पहने हुए थे. बाय लेट आफ्टरनून we had reached the small town of Hor. Now in the late afternoon, around 3 or 4 o'clock, they reached the Hor city, which was en route back on the main east-west highway that followed the old trade route from Lhasa to Kashmir. Now they have joined the main route, that is Silk route, which was earlier used as a trading route for the silk from Kashmir to Lhasa, and this was the main east-west highway. They have reached there. Daniel, who was returning to Lhasa, found a ride in a truck to Zetan, and I bade him farewell. So outside a tire repair shop. So let me tell you, dear students, Daniel and Zetan are just a supporting staff for the journey of Nick Middleton. Okay, Nick Middleton was alone to reach Kailash Mansarovar, whereas Zetan was the car driver and the vehicle could not reach the top of the Kailash Mansarovar. So from a distance, whoever used to go there, and even today also, they have to walk on foot. Also, Daniel was supposed to go back to Lhasa after reaching this east-west highway. So Daniel now said goodbye to Zetan and Nick Middleton, and he boarded a truck which was going to Lhasa. And Zetan and Nick Middleton were at the tire repair shop from where they bade him farewell. We had suffered 2 punctures in quick succession on the drive down from the Salt Lake, and Zetan was eager to have them fixed since they left him with no spares. So by this time the vehicle also suffered with 2 punctures, one after another, in a very quick succession of time, you can say, in a little gap of timing. And Zetan was very eager, means he wanted to change or fix the punctures as early as possible, because there was no spare tire with them. Okay, so it was his problem, or it was going to be problematic for their journey. Besides, the second tire he had changed had been replaced by one that was as smooth as my bald head. So the second tire which he changed was in the worst condition, you can say, means there was no tire grip left on that, and the grips were as smooth as my bald head. It means Nick Middleton is a baldy person, hairless. Hor was a grim, miserable place. So now here is the description of the Hor city, which was en route to Kailash Mansarovar, and the condition of this city was miserable. It was very gloomy, was having a dismal look, sad look, means it was full of filth and dirt. There was no vegetation, and there was no plantation, no vegetation, nothing, no greenery at all whatsoever, just dust and rocks. There he could see only dust and the rocks, nothing else, liberally scattered with years of accumulated refuse, means it has been lying there without any accommodation of human being. There is no movement of human being, hardly some people are there, and this has been neglected for a long period. That's why the condition is worst, which was unfortunate given that the town sat on the shore of Lake Mansarovar. And being this city, Hor, a city being on the outskirts of or near to the shore of the Lake Kailash Mansarovar, it is very unfortunate that such a city which is situated at a religious place is overlooked by human beings. Tibet's a most venerated stretch of water. So Kailash Mansarovar is the most respectful, most sacred stretch of water in the Kailash Mans. Okay, the Kailash Mansarovar lake is the very sacred lake, very respected lake in the Tibetan region. Ancient Hindu and Buddhist cosmology pinpoints Mansarovar as the source of 4 great Indian rivers. So according to the cosmology of the Hindus and Buddhists, Kailash Mansarovar is the source of 4 major rivers. And which are these rivers? The Indus Valley, the Indus River, the Ganges means Ganga, the Satluj and the Brahmaputra. These 4 rivers have emerged from Kailash Mansarovar, and actually only the Satluj flows from the lake, but the headwaters of the others all rise nearby on the flanks of the Mount Kailash. So only Satluj river emerges from the Kailash Mansarovar lake, whereas other 3 rivers, that is Brahmaputra, Ganga and Indus, these 3 rivers emerge from the sides of the Mount Kailash. जो कैलाश मानसरोवर जो पर्वत है, जो माउंटेन है, उसके साइड से ये 3 नदियाँ निकलती हैं, और सतलुज नदी एक्चुअल में जो मानसरोवर लेक है, मानसरोवर झील है, वहाँ से निकलती है. वी वर within striking distance of the great mountain and I was eager to forge ahead. So I was craving to move ahead as early as possible since we were very close to the Kailash Mansarovar mountain. But I had to wait. Chetan told me to go and drink some tea in Ho's only cafe, which like all the other buildings in town was constructed from badly painted concrete and had 3 broken windows. So Chetan told me that I should have a cup of tea. So I went to a cafe which was a lonely cafe there in the city of Hor, and it was badly constructed, means the different color of the stones it was constructed with, and it was having 3 windows which were broken, means it was not in updated condition. The condition of this cafe was dilapidated. The good view of the lake through one of them helped to compensate for the drought, and one of those windows was quite helpful to have the fresh air in from the outside atmosphere. I was served by a Chinese youth in a military uniform who spread the grease around on my table with a filthy rag before bringing me a glass and a thermos of tea. So there a person or a boy who was working as a waiter there, he was wearing a military uniform and he was a Chinese youth. He came there before serving me the tea in a glass and thermos. He spread some lubricant, greasy substance on the top layer of the table with a filthy rag, means एक फटे पुराने कपड़े से उसने वो ग्रीस का जो है उसके टॉप लेयर ऑफ द टेबल उसके ऊपर उसको स्प्रेड किया उसने. Half an hour later, Chetan relieved me from my solitary confinement, and we drove past a lot more rocks and rubbish westwards out of town towards Mount Kailash. So after half an hour, Chetan came to me and we started our journey towards Kailash Mansarovar. And let me tell you, the condition of this city, that is place out of Hor, was it was very bad. It was rubbish and it was not maintained well. The cleanliness or sanitation was not maintained. My experience in Hor came as a stark contrast to accounts I had read of earlier travelers' first encounters with Lake Mansarovar. So whatever I heard about Kailash Mansarovar Lake from the writings of the persons who visited Kailash Mansarovar earlier, and what the experience I was having by myself, okay, physically there, was totally in contrast. It was contrary to what they wrote about it. Means जो मैं यहाँ पे देख रहा था, वो उन सब ट्रैवलर से जो वहाँ पे गए थे, उन्होंने अपने बुक्स में लिखा हुआ था, जिसको मैंने पढ़ा था, उससे बिल्कुल अलग था ये। ओके, व्हाट वाज दैट डिफरेंस? Ikai Gawaguchi, a Japanese monk who had arrived there in 1900, was so moved by the sanctity of the lake that he burst into tears. So, he had read about a book written by Ikai Gawaguchi, a Japanese monk, and this Japanese monk visited Kailash Mansarovar in the year 1900, and he was so attracted, so moved by the sanctity or sacredness of this purity of this lake that he was burst into tears. Okay, he was burst into tears. He was so influenced by the beauty of this place. Whereas today I am unable to see that beauty. It is totally different now. A couple of years later, the hallowed waters had a smaller effect on Stephen Haddon. So, hallowed means holy water, pure water, or the water related to a place which is sacred, which is religious, which is worshipped. So, after some years, Sven Hedin, a Swedish person, okay, a Swedish person came to visit Kailash Mansarovar, this holy water, and he also wrote something about it very good, but he wasn't prone to sentimental outburst, but he was not so sentimental that he could outburst or he could cry seeing this place. Okay, it means it was bit good, but not as good as witnessed by Ikai Gawaguchi. And whatever beauty was described by them about Kailash Mansarovar was not at all existing now when I was witnessing it. It was dark by the time we finally left again and again. And after 10:30 p.m. we drew up outside a guest house in Darchin for what turned out to be another troubled night. So it was evening time, and we reached a place named at Darchin at around 10:30 in the night. This was again a problematic place, and we faced a lot of difficulty here. What difficulties were faced by the author? Let us know. Kicking around in the open air rubbish dump that passed for the town of Hor and set off my cold once more. Means this was also as rubbish as the city of Hor, and I was caught by cold there once again. Though, if truth be told, it had never quite disappeared with my herbal tea. So, even I used the herbal tea also, and my cold was not at all completely, it was not completely cured even after leaving Hor also, but it caught me again. I was gripped by cold again. One of my nostrils was blocked again, and as I lay down to sleep, I wasn't convinced that the other would provide me with sufficient oxygen. So one of my nostrils was blocked due to cold and cough, and the other was not in a condition to provide me sufficient oxygen. Means my respiratory system was going to malfunction because of the blockage of one of my nostrils. My watch told me I was at 4,760 meters. So this was the height they have gained finally. It wasn't much higher than Rao. So he says that this height was almost as the height of Rao, the place where they lived for many days, and they left from that place for the Mount Kailash. So height was not so much high. Okay, still he was suffering from the cold, and there I had been gasping for oxygen several times every night. So gasping means opening mouth, or you can say this breathing rapidly. Okay, gasping means fast breathing. Several times every night he used to have the fast breathing there. I had grown accustomed to these nocturnal disturbances by now, but they still scared me. So, in the city of Hor and Rao, I had much acquainted myself with the changing weather conditions. It was not of a great disturbance for me, but I was still scared of, I was still afraid of the cold and other problems which were gripping me because of the atmosphere and the filth and the rubbish spread all around these cities. So during nights he had to suffer from cold, but after living at Rau, Hor, and now Darchin, it was not something new for him, but yes, he was still afraid of the consequences of the cold. So dear students, we will continue our remaining part in the next lecture. Thank you.